We often mistake a man simply showing up regularly for genuine emotional commitment and depth. Have you ever stayed with someone simply because they kept showing up? Not because you felt deeply loved, but because a part of you thought consistency alone was enough to call it love. But do you know the difference between a body in the room and a heart in the relationship?
Because sometimes the most confusing relationships are not the ones where he disappears, but the ones where he stays just enough to keep you emotionally attached. A common trap known as breadcrumbing. We see the consistency of his presence and we label it as love.
Today, we're talking about the dangerous mistake of confusing consistency with real emotional intimacy, and why being physically present is not the same thing as truly loving someone. Also, what you can do to become more aware and fix this. He texts every morning. He calls sometimes. He comes over regularly. And because he never fully leaves, you convince yourself that the relationship must be healthy. If you accept his mere existence in your space as a sign of deep devotion, he never feels the pressure to offer you anything more. He is safe in the shallow end because you haven't asked him to swim.
But why is this bar so low? Why does just being there feel like enough? To understand that, we have to look back at where our definition of love began.
Many of us were raised where the greatest threat wasn't a lack of intimacy, it was abandonment. In those homes, consistency became the gold standard because the alternative was a void. We learned to be grateful for presence alone, even if that presence was cold or silent.
If you've spent your whole life fearing abandonment, simple presence can feel unbelievably comforting, even when your emotional needs are starving.
Consistency without emotional depth can become one of the loneliest experiences a woman ever lives through. A man can occupy your time, your bed, your weekends, and still never truly enter your inner world.
So when a man stays consistent, your nervous system relaxes. You think, at least he isn't abandoning me. And suddenly, the bar for love becomes survival instead of connection.
And this is where women begin abandoning themselves without even realizing it. Because when crumbs feel like safety, you stop asking for the full meal.
You stop asking deeper questions. You stop expressing disappointment. You become grateful for bare minimum effort, because losing him feels scarier than losing yourself. But real intimacy is not built through routine alone. It is built through curiosity, emotional risk, vulnerability, and genuine presence. To break this cycle, you must first recognize the empty presence. It looks like a man who is home every night or texts every morning, but hasn't asked you a real question about your feelings in months. A man who truly loves you wants to know what scares you, what excites you, what memories shaped you, and what dreams still live inside you.
How do you start the shift? You raise the standard quietly through your own clarity. You stop filling the silence for him. You stop being the only one holding the emotional weight. He doesn't just show up physically. He reaches toward your inner world with intention.
Observe what happens when you stop performing. Does he notice the silence? Does he reach across the gap to find you? Or does he simply enjoy the quiet? Real emotional pursuit looks like him asking, "What's on your mind today?" Or noticing a change in your energy before you even have to explain it. Once you experience emotional depth, consistency alone stops impressing you, because now you understand the difference between access and intimacy.
This is where your standards begin changing quietly, not through anger or demands, but through clarity. You start asking yourself different questions. Does he listen carefully when I speak? Does he care about my emotional world? Do I feel deeply seen around him? You must learn to value your own inner world so much that you find it unacceptable for a partner to live alongside you without ever wanting to visit it. This isn't about blaming him. It's about honouring you. It's about recognising that you were built for connection, not just cohabitation.
And sometimes the hardest truth is realizing that someone can be loyal to your presence while remaining completely disconnected from your soul. Seek the man who wants to know your stories, your fears, and your silly thoughts. Consistency is the floor, but emotional intimacy is the ceiling. Don't live on the floor. You deserve more than someone who simply stays. You deserve someone who reaches for you emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Someone who genuinely wants to know you. You deserve someone who arrives with their heart, their mind, and their full attention. Don't settle for a body when you were born for a soul.
Because real love is not measured by how often someone appears in your life. It is measured by how deeply they enter your heart without making you abandon yourself to keep them there. If this message spoke to you, subscribe so we can continue building a community of women choosing themselves again. Comment 333 below if you're ready to stop shrinking, stop settling, and start becoming the woman you were always meant to be. And if you have advice, encouragement, or a lesson that helped you heal, leave it in the comments. Someone else might need those words today. Thank you for being here. Peace and love always. See you in the next video.